Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Author to Author podcast. I am your host, Pamela R Haynes, award-winning author of 2 books called Loving the Brothers and Loving the Sisters. I interview independently published and traditionally published authors from around the globe. The Author to Author podcast is available on 20 plus streaming platforms and 6 radio stations, namely East London Radio, Mixcloud, Pam Tango Radio, UK246.com, Chalk Hill Community Radio, LWR Talk Radio, and the Sounds of My Life radio stations. The podcast is sponsored by Dolgetty Herbal Teas. Use the discount code A2AS6 for 10% off your next Dolgetty tea order. In this week's episode, I interviewed Henery Long, aka Professor X, and we talked about his book, The Gumbo. Let's jump into his episode now. See you on the other side. Hello there, Henery. How are you?
I'm blessed and highly favored, Pamela. How about yourself?
I'm okay, thank you. Glad to be here. Glad to be interviewing you. So thank you for agreeing to be on the Author to Author podcast. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where are you based? And in terms of your heritage, where are you representing?
Well, my name is Henery X, government name, last name Long. 58 years young. I was born January 24th, 1965 in Detroit, Michigan, where I still reside. I was born, raised, and still reside in Detroit, Michigan. I regard myself as an African in America, not African American. I regard myself as an African in America. I've been writing for almost 30 years, creatively, the author of 6 books. My goal is to write 10 books in 10 years. I write a book a year. Started in 2018, and I've been going with that. I edit manuscripts. I'm a writing coach. I've helped, I don't know how many people go from writers to authors. And my goal is to help 100 people to become published authors before this year is done.
Okay, we'll get into all of that because you've given us a very nice overview. Give me an example of what a perfect day looks like in Detroit, Michigan.
To go out and just interact with people I've never met before, right? Because I know that it's so many people that feel they don't matter in this world, right? And I want them to know that they do. So I acknowledge their presence, right? Strike up a conversation with them, right? Let them do more talking. And I know without them even saying it, that makes their day a bit better, right? They go about feeling, wow, somebody does care, you know? So that's a great day for me. And I do that, like anytime I'm out, I always do that. I strike up a conversation with 1 or 2 people. Yeah, and sometimes I get their phone numbers and we become good friends. Just like that.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I can see from my interaction with you over the last year, it's been precisely that in terms of you wanting to give people a voice. And we're going to get into that a bit further as well. But to let our listeners know, we met through a clubhouse room that you started. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that room?
Yes. Thank you, Pamela. The room you speak about, well, it's really a house now. They changed it from clubs to houses. It's called Writer's Way. Writer's Way has been in operation for just over 2 years. It started with me going to Clubhouse looking for something and I couldn't find it. So I said, I have to create it myself. And that's what I did. It was created basically because I knew all these people from Instagram, but they didn't know each other. So I said, if I can get us all in one space, we can rectify that, right? You know, because people have to be talking, and if they don't want to come up and talk, they listen, they hear something they like, they connect with the person privately. But all the people that come to Writer's Way are not people that I was connected with. I met all them people through Clubhouse. I couldn't understand that. I invited all these people I was connected with on Instagram. A few of them showed up, but they never came back. So I was like, the people who showed up are the people that was meant to show up, right? It was meant for them. Writer's Way was created for them, right? And it's Monday through Friday from 2 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have over 2,000 members. So something that just started as a random thought has blossomed and bloomed into a place where people really appreciate coming. I'm glad for that. I'm happy for that.
And the thing about Clubhouse is that you have people joining from all over the world because you said 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My alarm set to join in British summertime, and you have people from Africa, Australia, New Zealand, all over the Caribbean who are joining the platform as well. So tell me, how does the house work? How does Writers Way give an opportunity to new writers?
The house, it works. It's I don't really like having a bunch of rules, but I know certain rules are a necessity to maintain order, right? Where there's no order, chaos waits patiently to appear, right? So I keep chaos at bay with certain orders, right? So the number one order is there will be no direct or indirect disrespect from anyone towards anyone in that space. The space started safe and will end that way. So, if it means a person's presence has to be avoided to keep that peace, so be it. But for the most part, we have had no problems because people respect the space. They come in there, they know how it goes, and people, they have an opportunity to promote themselves, to share what it is they're doing, and to read something they have wrote, right? Because everybody wants to have whatever they created heard or seen, right? Or experienced. Everybody, right? Some just aren't at that point yet where they're comfortable enough to share, right? But they want to, right? So this is what Writers Way offer people. You don't have to come to the stage and do anything. You can stay in the listening lounge when you're comfortable and you're ready. You can come to the stage and let your voice be heard, right? And that's the primary reason why I created that space, so that people can know that their voice matter, right? And somebody wants to hear their voice, even if it's just me, right? I want to hear what you have to say, right? And when you give people those kind of opportunities, it changed their life. It changed their whole life, right? When they see that somebody actually cares, it changes their whole perspective on life, you know? So that's what Writers Way is all about. It's all about helping people to realize you do matter. You more than matter, right? Yeah, so they can, start living in their greatness.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what I love about it the most is the opportunity to practice what you're working on. And you always say, tell us what you're working on, tell us what you're reading. And it gives an opportunity for you to practice in front of an audience that will give you direct feedback in the moment as it happens. And I can't tell you how much my confidence has grown as a result of being able to practice what I'm, sometimes I do apologize a lot and say, look, this is very rough what I'm working on at the moment. But it gives people the opportunity to get feedback in the moment, which has been fantastic. And the group runs 5 days in the week, doesn't it? Monday to
Yeah.
Friday.
Yes, ma'am. Monday through Friday. 2 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We usually don't go that long, but it depends on how many people come to the stage, and everything is structured. It's structured just right. You got 4 minutes to read, you know, so it can align with the allotted time, right? And then you got a minute to comment on whatever you heard if you want to comment. So everything aligns with the allotted time, but it depends on how many people come to the stage. And when people come to the stage within that time period, because at 3:30, hand raising is shut off. So that means that's it. So everybody on the stage they will have an opportunity to read, even if it's only to me. If I'm the last one in there and it's like 8 o'clock, you got 100 people, right? They're gonna have an opportunity to read, right? It all depends on how many people come to the stage, and it usually be a nice number of people, but we always make it out of there in a timely manner. So yeah.
Yeah, I think a couple of times I've been on late with you to about, well, it would be 11 o'clock British summertime, where it's quite late, and there's just been a few more people. People have dropped off, and there's just a few left in there. And, sometimes you get a chance to go back and read something again or ask questions about the whole publishing process. So it's also an information sharing house as well. If somebody knows somebody in another room that they can connect people with, that has
Yeah.
really been fantastic. So thank you for setting up Writer's Way. Hopefully, as a result of this interview, more people will tune in and find the house also. Let's go back and cover some of the writing. You mentioned earlier that you are a six times published author, but tell us,
Yeah.
how did that start?
Well, it started with me being an avid reader. I never wanted to be a writer ever. I started writing. I was 25 years old when I started writing. But it was me reading that really and truly sparked that writer's bug. That the writer's bug bit me as I was reading, because what I was reading, it was showing me so many things. Right, the main thing it showed me is that it helped me escape realities I was currently in. Right, so as I was reading, I was trapped within the story because I was reading fictional novels, right, suspense novels. I was a part of them novels, right? I wasn't even where I was. So I look up and time had elapsed so quick. I'm like, wow, what? So I say, this is powerful. This is powerful for this to be able to help me do this. So then I switched up what I was reading to intellectual books to heighten my intellect, right? And these books actually was helping me to change my life. And I was like, that's when it happened. I was like, whoa, because this was nothing more than these people's opinions. Everything I was reading was nothing more than their opinions, but it became much more than that based off how I felt, right? Because it was their opinion, but I was like, this also helpful advice to me, right? So I said, wow, I wonder, can my opinions help somebody, right? I've lived a life, I have experiences. So I started writing, and I didn't start sharing right off because I was afraid that it was going to be rejected. But when I finally did share, people gravitated towards it, and the more I shared, the more I wanted to, and so and I got better with the writing the more I did it. So I said, wow, I like this writing thing because it's helping people. And I said, the best way for me to really reach a larger audience is to put the wisdom within the pages of books. And that's what I did. I wrote my first book in 2018, and it's been on and popping ever since.
What was the name of the first book you published?
Positive Energy 24/7.
And what is that book about?
So I was writing a book that had lived in my mind for almost 10 years. And it lived like that because I saw so many ways to write it, this, that, this. I put it to the side, all kinds of things. So I was finally putting the written manuscript portion of that first book into a desktop. Prior to, on Facebook, I had created a group called the Daily Dose. I was sharing inspirational quotes for people to start their day with. But these were not my quotes, but I had my own quotes, but I was afraid to share them. So I started feeling some kind of way about sharing these Google quotes that weren't mine in my group. So I said, forget that, sink or swim. I shared my first quote. It was well received, kept doing it, and it just took off. I did that for 5 years. So a friend of mine asked me, based off those quotes, had I ever thought about writing an inspirational book? I said no. But that question became like a seed in my mind, and me kept thinking about it was like water. And that seed just kept blooming and blooming until it just bloomed out of control and overtook my whole mindset. And I said, I got to write that book. So I stopped writing the book. I stopped putting the book I was putting into the desktop and started Positive Energy. But before I did, I said, what am I going to do? So I went back and I gathered up those quotes from them 5 years, and that became the first chapter of that book. And after that, the book just became self-explanatory. But those 5 years worth of quotes are the first chapter of Positive Energy 24/7.
What did you do with your manuscript? So once you've put it all together, what was the dialogue that you had with yourself about how to get the book out there?
You're talking about Positive Energy or the other book?
The very first book.
You're talking about the first book I published or the first book I started working on? Because Positive Energy became the first book, but it was a book I never had intentions on writing. I was writing a book called It Was Destined Urban Legend, right? I had 5 chapters of that book, which is 10 chapters total. But like I said, I was putting that in the desktop from the paper it was on. And then this thought came. And once I held Positive Energy in my hand, because I had lost all interest in writing the first book, I lost all interest in it. Positive Energy had just overtook my whole thought process. But the minute I held Positive Energy in my hand, that feeling came back for the very first book I started, and Positive Energy helped me to finish that book. So I had to write that book first so I could write the book that I actually came to the literary world for, which was It Was Destined Urban Legend. And I started promoting Positive Energy via Instagram. That's why I came to Instagram. I came to Instagram in 2018 to promote that book, right? But I had the thought, like, people don't know me. Why are they going? So I had to go out and get to know people. I'm reading their work, commenting on their work. These people gravitating towards me because they love my comments. And they start buying that book because of how I was showing them love, right? And that's when I discovered the importance of comments, the importance of acknowledging other people's work. More often than not, they're going to reciprocate, right? So that's how it happened. In 2018, I've been on Instagram since 2018.
Well, tell us,
And
how did you find the publishing process then? Is it something that comes easily to you?
at first it wasn't. I had to have assistance. I could write and I could edit, but all the rest of it I couldn't do, right? So I had to align myself with people that did know how to do that, right? And it was all about my attitude. I don't know what you know, because if I did, I wouldn't be in your company asking for your assistance. So I'm a student here. Whatever you say, if it sounds logical to me, I'm gonna go with it, right? So fortunately, I aligned with some good people, great people that know what they're doing, right? And I paid them for their service, and we kept a relationship. And I've been with them same people with all these books, with all 6 books, the same people. Well, actually, 2 of the book covers were done by 2 different people, but the other 4 was done by the same person. The formatting done by the same person. When you're doing something, you're gonna do what you do to the best of your ability. But what you can't, you have to humble yourself and reach out to people that do know how to do it, right? And it's all about your attitude. Your attitude dictates your altitude, like they say, right? You got a good attitude, you're going to go far. You don't, you're going to stay grounded. That's a fact.
Thank you for that. Have you been able to publish a book a year? And what are the names of the other books that you published after that?
So my first book, Positive Energy 24/7, was 2018. My second book, It Was Destined, Urban Legend, was 2019. 2020 was The Gumbo, Food for Thought. 2021, Far From Fiction, Short Stories Meant to Influence Reality. 2022, The Greatest Lit, my all-time favorite works of literary art, Volume 2. In 2023, I Lived a Dream, 10 short stories starring amazing children that will inspire the inner child within us all. That last book I mentioned is my favorite book of all, and because of why it was written. So yeah, I have been on track on that course of 10 and 10. When I first said it, I was like, what did you just say? But I couldn't go back on it. I can't lie to myself, right? Even though nobody else was around and heard me, I heard me, right? So I had to stay true to that. And the great thing about it though, Pamela, is that all the books are right in my mind. I just have to take them from my mind and put them in the computer. It's not, it's not an easy. I mean, it's not a hard task. I just have to do that. Dedicate the time to doing it.
Tell us a bit about the last book you wrote. You said it's your favorite. Why is that, and how did that book come about?
I lived a dream. It's my favorite book because it's not only meant to motivate the youth, right? But it's also meant to awaken the inner child that lies dormant within the average adult, right? When society gets a hold of us, it slowly but surely puts that inner child to sleep, right? We got these responsibilities. We are being lied to, all kinds of things, right? So we lose that curiosity. We lose that excitement and for adventure and all. We lose all that. And we take on these responsibilities. Oh, I got these bills. I got this. I got that. And that's all fine and dandy. But you also have a life to live too outside of that, right? But they keep us in the dark on this. I like to say this, that you have a beginning and an end with society. You work hard and then you retire, right? You retire at what, about 65, right? But it's something in between those two things of working hard and retiring, and that's being your own boss, right? If you do things right within, the beginning till you get to the end, if you do things right in the middle, you can retire at 30 years old. You can retire at 30 years old. It depends on the kind of job you have and the kind of discipline you have when it comes to saving, right? Because it's your savings you're going to invest in whatever it is you love doing, right? So this book right here is to show that you can live a dream no matter what age you are, right? Because all these children are under the age of 18 and they had mentors that was willing to enlighten them on what it is that they wanted to do. But they told them first and foremost, you have to stay committed. The first time you sow that it's over. And they was like, no, I want this. I want this. I want it, right? So, and it's also to show the adults the same thing. You have to want this. You have to want it. You have to be committed to this if you want it to come to pass, right? Nothing worthy of having will ever be obtained easily and appreciated appropriately. You have to put in that work. And the work is what's going to make you appreciate it once you get it, you know, because what you had to do to get it. If I gave you $1, you probably just go blow it because you had to do nothing to get it. But if you had to earn that dollar, you're gonna be attempting to figure out, how can I double this? How can I triple it? Because of how you had to get it, right? You had to work for it. So this book, I just love it. And how it came about, I was having a conversation with one of my many literary comrades, and she said, you should write a curriculum on how the youth can live their best life. Right after she said that, my mind went to working, and I saw it in my mind. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna write 10 short stories. She was like, really? I said, yeah, blah, blah, blah. I explained it to her. And I said, I'm about to write the first story right after we get done. I did, shared it with her. She liked it. And every day after, I wrote the rest. So it took me 10 days to write those stories. It took me 6 months, though, to get the book to where it is now. But it only took me 10 days to actually do it. And it was because of her saying that to me. Yeah, so that's how it came about, and that's why it's my favorite book.
Thank you so much for sending me a copy of The Gumbo, Food for Thought. Overeating is highly recommended, is the
Yeah.
subtitle there. So thank you for that. And thank you for personally inscribing in it as well. So it's not a gift to give away. I'm going to have to think of something else to give away as a competition prize because I really do like what you've written. Why the gumbo? I'm having a guess why you called it the gumbo, but tell us why. And would you mind reading a couple of the ingredients, as it were, in the book?
Of course. So the gumbo, it's a story. The gumbo is a story in itself. So this is another book I had no intentions on writing, right? So I had entered this contest in this publication called The Gumbo, and they rejected my offering. They rejected it. I felt some kind of way. So instead of stewing in that energy, I said, I'm about to do something positive with this energy. But what? So I said, I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to call it The Gumbo. But I didn't just want to have it because that was the name of the publication. So I said, Food for Thought. Right, so it became a whole play on words, right? So the ingredients and all that, it all became a play on words, wordplay. That's how this book came about. It came about from me being rejected, right? So I turned rejection into something sweet. I turned it into something sweet, right? And this is my most popular book of all. This book, literally, just like Writer's Way, when you said that people from all over the world come to Writer's Way, this book is in people's houses all over the world, literally. Germany, Australia, Japan. It's everywhere, everywhere. And it just blows my mind when people be like, I got the gumbo. I'll be like, what? I didn't even know you knew me, right? So how you got the gumbo? But yeah, this used to be my favorite book because not because of the popularity of it, but because just how it's set up, right? I gave people an opportunity I'm connected with to co-create an ingredient with me, right? Because I like their style. I reached out to them. They said yes. And I just gave them a nice write up. I promoted them in this book. I didn't have to do that, right? Me offering them an opportunity was enough. But I gave them a whole write up. Each one of them, I think it's like 23 of them. So this book was my favorite, because it was so much love involved in it. But then The Greatest Lich came, and that became my favorite book. But then I Lived a Dream just overtook everything. It overtook everything, right? Because it's so much about that book. But let me see. Let me read something out of here. All right, let's just read this. This is the 203rd ingredient. When I'm in the low, writing puts me on high. If you didn't know, well, I'm about to tell you why. Every line from my chaotic mind allows me to comprehend the light that shines. I see within the brightness of me that has no likeness. The written word allows me to see what's mentally heard as well as frees up space for thoughts more preferred. I'm feeling so well. To get to heaven, we must go through hell. The flames change the game, unleashes a desire that's too wild to tame and that surges through my entire frame. Now my motion is navigated by undying love and devotion. For me, myself, and I just don't fly, I soar when I don't settle for less. How can I not expect to see more? If I haven't realized by now, well, if you haven't realized by now, excuse me, this is also a key to the door of better days ahead. But if we expect to live our dreams, we got to be willing to get out of bed. And pardon me for the bleeps, bloops, and blunders, but for whatever reason, I'll be having difficulty reading my own words. I don't know why. Let's stay around in the same realm and read this short one here. This is the 200th ingredient. I'm addicted to the way it makes me feel. The thrill is so surreal. It takes control of my mind, body, and soul. How could this be? Loving you more than me loving me. I would die without you because you are my reason to live. Life equals everything you have to give. If you don't know, writing is my drug of choice because it allows me to speak where I have no voice. So that's a couple of them up out of there.
Thank you so much for reading from your book, The Gumbo. And I'm glad you explained how it came about because that's not what I was thinking when I've dipped into some of the ingredients. I was imagining a large pot. And I was going to ask you actually, have you ever made gumbo before?
I never have.
No, I didn't think it was something that was on the menu in Michigan, but it seems to be more of a South American thing to make. But I've been imagining this big pot and different ingredients going into the pot to help make up the to make the gumbo, and that's what I got from reading your book. It was like a recipe and you're just dropping knowledge into a large pot for whoever wants. You don't have to start at the beginning of the book and then finish at the end. You can just open the book to the particular ingredient that you need for that day. That's how I was imagining the book being read. But tell me, what has the feedback been from your writing in general? How have your family felt about it, your friends, etc.? How have your books and your book journey been received?
Well, as far as family and friends off of social media, they not writers. They can't understand. They be like, oh, okay, that's good, la la la. But my mom, she my number one fan. And my writing has helped my mom in certain ways. I got my mom a parking space at her building that she had been wanting, and they wouldn't give it to her. And I put these words together so perfectly, they gave her that spot, right? I mean, just like that, they gave it to her, right? She became a fan after that. She was like, oh, wow, you know how to write. It's like, yeah, I do a little bit. But on social media, my writing it has helped people to realize things they never even thought. They never even thought pertaining to themselves, right? Because how I write is always meant to have a person think and want to act on their thoughts, right? I believe that when we put our words together, it should be intentional. We should have an intent right out the gate, right? This is what I'm setting out to accomplish, right? So everything I write, I want a person to think and I want them to act on those thoughts. And it's always geared towards having them want something better for themselves. And it's always talking about how you need to align with like-minded people. You have to have a great attitude. You have to believe, you know, and you have to be consistent in all of it. In everything you do, consistency is the key. You have to be consistent with it all, right? And if you do that, and you have to be patient because nothing happens overnight, it happens over time. You have to be very patient, right? And if you do all these things, whatever it is that you're setting out to do, it will be done. It will be done. So, based off that, my writing is well received by a multitude of people. I'm talking about just a multitude of people. People always asking me this, asking me that, always. And I willingly give it to them. I could charge them for this information, but I willingly give it to them because I know when you do something like that with no hidden agendas and no things of that nature, stuff always comes more than it would if you did, right? So I've never worried about financial anything, right? Because it comes based off what I give. I receive based off what I give. Well received on social media. Off social media, not so much because they not writers and they can't relate.
Thank you for that. So tell me, when you're not reading, when you're not writing, when you're not managing Writer's Way, how do you spend your downtime?
Listening to music. Music is my number one thing to relax, right? Listening to music. Music keeps my peace of mind intact. So I love all kinds of music. When I say all kinds, country, rock and roll, all kinds, right? But my music of choice of late is instrumental jazz. Everything I have ever written, I mean everything, was written to music. Everything, every single thing. And my best writing came about when I'm listening to instrumental jazz. Because even though I'm not writing anything music related, it's the absence of words that inspires me to write whatever it is I'm writing, right? Because I feel that that music is deserving of words, not lyrics, but words. So as I'm listening to it, I'm just I'm writing a short story that ain't got nothing to do with music, period. But the music is motivating me, and the lack of words motivates me that much more, right? To finish it, right? As the song going, I'm going, and I want to finish this before this song stops, right? That's a goal I set for myself too, right? Um, but I'm never like concentrating on, like stopping and wondering this. I just let my thing go, right? I never outline anything, none of that. Everything comes line for line, line for line. The first line feeds the next, so on and so forth. And when I get done, I'm a writer. I'm in writer mode. But when I get done, I'm in reader mode. And when I read it, my mind be blown because I'm not thinking about this stuff. I'm just typing it. And I'm like, that's nothing but God. That's nothing but God. Because I don't outline anything. Nothing. Nothing. Not even my books. I don't outline them, right? So that's all God, using me for a greater good.
Wow, that's quite refreshing to hear you say that,
Mm,
because if you're looking at what a publishing house might tell you, especially when they ask for a synopsis of what your work is going to be, I'm one of those people who don't know. When people say to me, "So you're writing Loving the Children at the moment. What's it about and how does the story end?" I mean, I don't know. I couldn't put it down in 250 words and say it starts here and it ends there. I just go with the flow. So it's wonderful to hear from another author that they're doing the same thing when they're writing. It's almost like a download. You don't know what's coming next,
right.
and sometimes you're not connected with it. Sometimes my pen is just flowing across the
Mm,
paper,
right.
exactly as you said. I'm old school. I still use paper and pen, and then I look back and I think, oh my gosh, I've written 1,000 words, but what did I write? And then, as you say, you flip into reader mode, and then you start reading through your work and thinking, oh gosh, where did all of this come from? So I find it quite refreshing, and it frees you, doesn't it, from constraints. You don't have to know it all. You don't have to know what's going to happen in chapter 7, chapter 8, and chapter 9. You can just free yourself to just do some free writing. And the most
Exactly.
important bit is getting it down rather
Exactly.
than sitting with the story inside of you. And I think that will be very useful for my listeners and for aspiring writers to know that you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have a full outline. And I've seen some writers with post-it notes and stickers all over their
Right.
office when this happens in scene, then this happens then, and it doesn't really have to work like that. And you are 6 times published author, so you know that it can be done that way.
Yeah, of course. I mean, everybody has their way of doing things, right? And what works for you, if it's working, don't rework it. Me, I've just never. I'm gonna tell you, Pamela, I only outlined two things in my whole. I've been writing for almost 30 years. In that time period, I only outlined two things, and they were the first ever of both. My first short story in my first book I was telling you about, I was writing, but I didn't finish because the positive energy came in. The first book, the manuscript was it was destined urban legend. That I outlined, I'm talking about every character. I put what they was gonna do, how they look, the attitude they was gonna have. I had all that, right? And my first short story, I did the same thing, right? Both of them took 10 years for me to write. Both of them took 10 years for me to write because I always seen a different way to write it, right? These two things were also teaching me the art of writing. They were teaching me because I used to make a misstep, I'll ball up the whole paper and throw it away, right? And start all over. So I got 500 pieces of paper over in the corner balled up, right? Because I'm editing as I'm writing. I didn't know. I'm new to this. I don't know you're supposed to dump it all out and then go back and edit it after the fact. So I had to learn these things as I'm going, right? And as I connect with other people and I'm reading books on writing and all this, right? But after the fact, it was after I wrote Positive Energy 24/7, right? Even though I wasn't outlining stuff, I was thinking heavy on it though. I wasn't outlining nothing. It wasn't until I wrote Positive Energy 24/7 that God took over. God took over, right? No, what happened was I was writing to see what people thought about my work, right? This is what I was writing about. It was for a selfish reason. I wanted to see what people thought. So I shared it. It wasn't until I started showing how much I cared about other people that God intervened. I believe God was like, now you got it. Now let me step in so you can do it right, right? And I never thought about nothing else. I'm talking about like pondering and all that. I never thought about it. Now I might have a line. I come up with the first line, and then I keep reciting that line over and over because I can't figure out what's coming next. I keep reciting it. After the third time, I write it out. It come right to mind after the third time. That's the only thing that I ever do, like as far as stopping and thinking about something. But when it comes to short stories with heavy dialogue, I never think about that. And the reason why I never think about it, because I'm always talking with myself. I ask myself a question and I answer the question. It's always me. No matter if it's a woman or a man or a child, I'm all the characters. I ask the questions, I answer them. It's me. So it's easy. I'd be like, how would I answer that question? And is this an important question to ask? Based off the title of the offering. So it's just a natural thing to me. Now I've been doing it so long, it comes natural. I don't have to think about it. I just do it. I just do it.
And very reassuring as well, because some people wait until all the conditions are right before they start writing, and the thing is, all the conditions will never be right, all the criteria will never be met. And what I like about what you're saying is that you're self-taught as well as being self-directed in terms of how you go about your writing. Have you done any creative writing courses or studied writing at a high level?
I have not. See, I like to say that books were my universities, right? Books were my universities, and the authors were my deans. You know, they were my deans and scholars. So, when I say that books helped me, the books changed my life. Period. I wasn't attempting to emulate anyone. I just wanted to see what was the similarities of all these writers where they captivated my attention like this. What was the similarities, right? So it was all about, I got 3 E's: encouragement, enlightenment, entertainment, right? In anything that's written, you're going to find one, two, or all 3 of those things, right? So I was like, this is how I'm going to write. I'm going to write to encourage, enlighten, and entertain, right? I've never strayed from that. So even though it's three ways to write, there are so many things that you can write within these 3 things. I'm talking about it's perpetual. I've been doing it for almost 30 years using these 3 E's, right? And I concluded that everybody needs these 3 E's in the world. In the world. So when somebody asks me, who is your niche audience? I was bold enough to say the planet's population, right? And they was like, that makes no sense. How can you say something like that? I said, because encouragement, enlightenment, and entertainment, right? I may write this and this person will feel it, but that person don't, right? It doesn't matter. It's all about getting one person to me to relate to the offering to the point it gets them to do what I want it to do. Think, act on the thought. That's what I want, right? So this person may not like it, this person do. That's a win, right? Then I put something else out. They don't like it, but they do. That's a win. So the planet's population, it's not saying that I'm going to get everybody to like everything, but there are going to be people all over the world that like something. You know what I'm saying? And that's the beauty. That's the intent. What is your intention with your work? Why are you writing this? Why? Why are you doing it? What do you hope to accomplish with this? And all that leads me to writing what I write and sharing it. And for the most part, it hits the bullseye. Not with everybody, but I only look for one person a day, just one every day. And I get one. I've been getting one since 2018 every day. It's more than one, but I'm saying I get one person every day to like
I love that,
and
Henry.
comment.
I love it. I love that,
Yeah.
Henry. I love the idea that about being intentional and knowing what your why is. And once people find out that you're a published author, they seek you out with their writing. And I always say, what is your why? Why do you want to write? Be intentional about what you write. And I've always said, especially in the beginning, that my why was that one person would understand what I was trying to write and act upon it as well. So if one woman came to the realization that the situation that she found herself in is wrong, that she would take action and change it. So being very clear about what your why is very important. But the reason why I asked the other question about whether you've studied writing at a particular level is because your pet name is Professor X, and I
Mm.
wanted to know how did that title come about? Because I have interviewed university professors on the podcast before.
That's a nickname that was given to me by a moderator on Clubhouse or in Writer's Way, Queen Nedra, her name Nedra Russell. Plus, I got the X on my name, Henery X, right? And X-Man, Professor X, and she always say that I got this brilliant type mind, right? And if you know anything about Professor X from X-Men, he had the ability to read minds, manipulate minds, right? So that's where that came from. And I love the name. And people always think that I'm an actual, they be thinking I'm a professor or some kind of dean, right? Or some kind of college. And I'll be like, no, I've never even attended college, right? I went inside of a college, but I've never ever attended a college, right? Again, like I said, books were my universities and their authors were my deans and scholars, right? They taught me well. They taught me well. Everything that I know for the most part is because I was an avid reader. I'm talking about ferocious reader, ferocious. I've read almost 400 books in my life, and so many of them are responsible for my writing journey to this day.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love the idea that it's a pet name that was given to you by Queen Nadra
Yeah.
from Writer's Way. That's just absolutely wonderful. And sometimes they're the best titles to have, isn't it? When your peers recognize your contribution to their journey and to the journey
Yeah.
of others. But now I get to ask you the question that you always ask us on Writer's Way. What are you working on at the moment, Henry?
Well, I'm working right now. I'm really not, but what I'm working on is the manuscript for my seventh book, which will be entitled "The Greatest Hits: My All-Time Favorite Literary Works of Art, Volume 2." This book is going to be my heaviest book to date. as far as content is concerned, right? It's gonna be content driven. I mean, because everything that I'm writing right now, currently writing right now, is going in there. It's going in that book. And this book, just like the first one, it's really the easiest book because all it is a copy, cut, and paste type situation, right? Because I'm taking things that I feel are going to have a great impact on the reader and I'm combining it all together. It's all my styles of writing, poetry, short stories, articles, skits, acronyms. Um, it's all these things combined into one, right? And they're the ones, like I said, that I feel are gonna make the greatest impact on the reader, right? And I've been writing of late just like a machine, all these stories, poems, just everything, right? And all that's going in this book. It's going in there. So all I got to do basically is just go get it because I've already posted it somewhere. Go get it, put it in the document I already have arranged. It's already ready to send over to the formatter. And once I get everything I want in there, I'll be done. Now I'm always ahead of schedule when it comes to because I always start right after I finished the previous book. I'm on the next one, right? So I put it out there sometime in January. So same the next week in January, I'm working on the next book. So just look at all that time I got to just do whatever I want to do till next January, right? So yeah, that's what I'm working on. And helping other people to be the best version of themselves.
That's fantastic. So we will be able to look out for that next book in January 2024.
Yeah.
Tell us about the Instagram page that you have, because I know that you also interview authors over there as well. Tell us what that project is about.
So that started in 2020, and it started as Positive Place. I was sitting, I had connected with so many writers. And one day I was just sitting, it was January 1st, 2020. I'll never forget. I was sitting there and I said, I wonder what these people allow me to interview them. It's just something that just came up. So I reached out to 60 people and they was like, sure. Right. I was like, really? So now I didn't even have a plan. I just thought that now I got to come up with questions and all this stuff. Right. I ain't even had no questions. So I started interviewing me. I interviewed myself and I was writing down these questions I wanted to know. So I wrote down the questions and I asked myself these questions. So that's where the questions came from. They came from me asking myself stuff that I wanted to know about the things I wanted to know about, and I wanted me to answer them honestly, right? So I say, dang, here go the questions. I said, okay, now let's get at it. So, it started first month, 30 days. I had an interview every day, 30 days. Then the next day was January, February. The next month, another 30, right? Then the pandemic came, right? I think it was March 12th. That's when the interviews stopped. They stopped on March 12th. Because everybody's scrambling, they don't know what's going on. But I kept the thing going because it was all about, having some place positive to come, to be heard, so on and so forth. They was helping me. They just didn't know how much they was helping me maintain my peace of mind. People was trickling in, but it wasn't like in the beginning, right? Then my page got hacked because it was so popular. It got hacked. And I was like, hey, I'm out. But people wanted me to keep going. And I wanted to keep the platform going, but I didn't want to keep it positive place. So I said, I'm looking at what it was all about, and it was about Your Voice Matters. So I said, that's the name of the platform. That's the name of the new platform, Your Voice Matters. And throughout the course of both, I've interviewed close to 400 people. Yeah. And so many people have written books after being interviewed, started their own platforms. These people that was terrified of even coming on the platform and being interviewed right after the fact, started their own platform, wrote books, connected with people they never thought they connect with. It's just a beauty. It's just like Writer's Way. Just like right, but you get to see the person instead of just hearing them. You get to see and hear them on Your Voice Matters. Clubhouse, you can only hear them. Just like Writer's Way, Your Voice Matters. It's doing what I wanted it to do. It's bringing out the best in people.
So tell us, Henry, what are your social media handles? How can people find you on Instagram?
My Instagram handle is self-created 124. That's my Instagram handle.
And
Um,
where are you? Are you anywhere else? Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do. I'm not really active over there on that YouTube channel. Basically, what I do is I take stuff that I post on Instagram and I put it on the YouTube channel so people can see it over there. I don't even know the name of that channel. To be true, I don't even know the name of it. I'm also on a platform called Medium, medium.com. I've been over there for almost 4 years. That's a very good platform if you want to connect with other like-minded individuals. It's all about reading and writing. Yeah, those are the platforms. And Facebook, it's just not, to me, it's not writer friendly. You know, people, they got other things going over there. They're not writer friendly, even though I heard it's writer groups over there. I'm talking about as far as your page and you posted stuff about what you wrote, this and that, and this. It's not writer friendly like that, right? But Daily Dose was. A lot of people, it started with 2 people and it ended up blowing up to, I think, probably about 2,000 people came over there, right? And I let them have that, and they was posting all kinds of stuff up in there, right? But yeah, those are the platforms. And as far as my website, I have a website, rightpath247.com. My Gmail is rightpath247llc@gmail.com. I mean, if you want to connect with me like that, you can. Like I said, I'm a writing coach. I edit manuscripts. And I want everybody to succeed in this literary world because there's room enough for us all to do so. So, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's room. So thank you for saying that, and thank you for letting my listeners know how they can get hold of you. How can they get hold of your books?
Naturally, amazon.com. But a few of my books, they could be purchased. If you want autographed copies, they can be purchased via my website, again, which is rightpath247.com. And that's WRITEPATH247.com. And those books that are available on my website are The Gumbo, The Greatest Lits, I Live the Dream, and Far From Fiction. The other 2 you'll have to get through my website. I mean, through my Amazon account.
Oh, thank you. I can't believe an hour has gone by so quickly. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for agreeing to an interview with me on the Author to Author podcast. Thoroughly enjoyed everything that you had to say, especially reading from your book. I think that's always a double treat because it's read exactly how in the author's voice and exactly how they intended as well. So thank you very much for that, Henry. Any final words?
Well, I like to say you're welcome and worthy, Pamela. And thank you for the opportunity. It's always great to know people appreciate you to the point where they want you to be a part of their success. That's awesome, right? That's awesome. That means that you're doing something right. That's what it means to me. You're doing something right. And I just want to say to all your listeners that you're awesome, right? You're awesome. You're great. You can do anything that you clearly see in your mind. You can do it. But you have to believe you can, and you have to do everything else that aligns with that to make it a reality. Keep dreaming, but more importantly, live some of those dreams because that's what they're meant to do, to be lived, right? So, yeah, that's it, Pamela. That's it for me. Again, thank you.
It is competition time now. And the competition question is, how many books has Henery Long published? Contact me on Instagram at Loving the Author with the correct answer by this Friday for your chance to win a copy of his book, The Gumbo. Good luck, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.